We're going to talk about some of those, as you call it, hostile activities in a moment. But you've said as one of the most important characteristics is to be a scholar and certainly to know about international criminal justice. And to that effect, as I mentioned in my introduction, you have published this book, The Jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. And now I want to ask you some questions about it. So, by the way, thanks for sending me this copy all the way from Greece. So, very generous of you. Now, first question, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, after my 6-month internship in the ICTY and the Milosevic trial, it became very clear to me that I would like to become an integral part of international criminal justice and contribute to the best of my abilities in the condemnation of heinous crimes that violate the core of our humanity. So that was what inspired me to write the book at first place. At second place, I wanted to look things differently, to put also in the interpretation of the law and of facts, the political factor, which is undeniable. I mean, a lot of times legal scholars do not take into account the political factor of international relations and international criminal justice, and this is simply, turning a blind eye to something that one might not like, but exists and it will not go away. So I wanted to examine this aspect as well. And thirdly, of course, I wanted to offer my own view on several issues, including the notion of international crime.
Yeah.
We say quite simplistically, but also practically, that there are 4 international crimes. But the lege ferenda, theoretically this should not always be the case. So I tried also to explore this quite theoretical and not so practical at first point field that legends like Cassese and Passioni have done, and no other, because it seems very theoretical and of no practical use at the moment, but might be in the future.
How would you say your book has been received in the international community?
Well, it has a lot of good reviews, and colleagues have told me that they really liked reading it. It is critical towards decisions and the application of the law so far. It is also groundbreaking in some respects, but it has got very good reviews, and some person told me a few months ago that in Amazon in the US, in Amazon.com, there was only one copy left. So that the sales were going quite well in the US. That's all I can say.
Well, I can testify it's a great read, and I've learned a lot. Let me ask you some substantive questions from your book. Okay, so the very first question is this: you argued that Article 7.2 of the Rome Statute, and by way of reminder, that it concerns attacks against civilian populations in furtherance of the state or organizational policy, that this does not apply to non-state actors. And you mentioned Al-Qaeda, you mentioned the mafia as examples of non-state actors. And I wonder whether this could even apply to so-called Islamic State actors as part of the argument. So my question is, why don't you include such actors as part of the definition or interpretation of this article?
There is a distinction in public international law, a traditional distinction between non-state actors and state actors. I actually believe that state actors and non-state actors is a division that should not exist, and it does not exist within the Rome Statute anymore. I think that all these organizations, terrorist groups, should come within the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, because we live in an age that international crimes can take place even by one person.
Yeah.
So I generally hold the view that non-state actors and state actors is a division that should not exist and does not exist in the national criminal law.
I agree with the view. I think the world is increasingly complex, and we don't fight warfare the same way we did 100 years ago. And it makes sense, I think.
Yes, and because you touched the sensitive part of my heart, I would like to tell you that this belief was one of the reasons that it was even more difficult to get my PhD in Greece. The Greek academic community has often the traditional view. They were not very positive towards this view that there should be no distinction between state actors and non-state actors. Because, especially in the world we live in, if we exclude non-state actors, then we have the ISIL, we have Boko Haram, we have all kinds of people and places that should be excluded from the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. And this is not right. I often used to say to them the Rambo example. Rambo is, the famous movie by Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
One man going into a village with a helicopter or with a machine gun and killing hundreds of bad guys, but these bad guys could actually be good guys. I mean, in another Rambo scenario, Rambo could be a bad guy going into a village with his helicopter or a machine gun or bazooka or all of this together and killing hundreds of innocent people. And Rambo is just one person. If we end up supporting this non-state and state actor, we would say that Rambo could never be tried by the International Criminal Court. And I really don't believe that.
Which wouldn't be a just result if that were to happen. Another thing I noted, although this was in a footnote, you said that, however, up until 2019, the ICC has yet to publish a single judgment on genocide. I just wonder if you can explain why is it so difficult, this genocide issue?
First of all, it is a very sensitive issue because genocide is considered to be the most abhorrent of the abhorrent crimes. The public opinion is often hears about genocide, feels a great stigma. There is sometimes the inclination by academics, even by academics, not just judges, to put strict requirements for accepting genocide because they feel that this would create a stigma towards the state, an eternal stigma. We see that in the Armenian genocide. I mean, this is the greatest example. I was reading about that last night by chance. The Armenian genocide is the genocide that Hitler saw as an example that he could commit the genocide against the Jews, because he said nobody was concerned about the Armenian genocide, so who would be concerned of the Jewish genocide? But even in that case, we see that there is a lot of adverse criticisms towards states when they accept this genocide or when they do not accept this genocide. And of course, there are states who do not like this genocide to be recognized. So it puts a lot of stigma. However, the contemporary analysis of genocide, as done by William Sebas, for example, in his monograph, which was the first monograph after a decade about this issue, accepts genocides even in very small sectors of society. So, for example, if a state attacks another state and decides to kill all the Muslim or Christian priests of that state because of different religious beliefs that this state has, then if this part of the society is extinguished, then according to the modern analysis of genocide, this could be considered a genocide because a certain part of a community and a substantial part in significance is being extinguished. So I also hold this view. But of course, in that case, we see that genocide ceases to be something of massive scale and can become even something of much lesser scale.
Well, thanks for the elaboration as to why it's particularly difficult, just dealing with genocide, international crimes.